This is Synthesis TV, keeping you on the edge of technology and business.
A very good day to you. I'm Howard Feldman, and this is Synthesis TV. Welcome back, and welcome to part 3, where we take a look at the digital process. How does a company go through this journey, go on this journey? What are the different parts involved? So the first part, the part 1, we spoke about the understanding and conceptualizing. Part 2, we looked at innovation and creation. And this episode, the final episode, we want to look at iterating and perfecting. How does that work? Is that ever really achievable, or is this an ongoing process? How do we get customers? How do customers ultimately adopt this technology that has been built, and what happens if changes need to be made? Joining me in studio today is Aleshan Maistry, as well as Daniel Horne. Welcome, guys.
How's it, Howard?
Thanks, Howard.
Thank you for having us.
It's really been, for me, the most phenomenally interesting exercise, because we've gone through these different parts of the journey, the design, and I imagine that design sticks the whole way through, and a lot of this really is, we've divided it into 3, but in reality it's a very, very fluid process. Let's start and let's just talk about iteration and perfection, talking about and describing the process as it continues after the initial launch. I don't know, Daniel, if you want to take it.
Yeah, sure.
Take it from there.
I like the word you use there, fluid. I mean, that explains it quite well, because although these happen one after the other, they're not like disparate. Like you do the beginning and that cuts off. What you do here is affecting what you do here during the build and during the period afterwards.
Right.
And, decisions we make during this build period is very much what's going to affect how that product is going to look, how our relationship with the client is going to carry on. And it's something we have to keep in mind all the time. Recently we did what we've termed a discovery phase with the responsive team is joining into us. And I must say, for me, that's been probably one of the most eye-opening and great experiences I've had here, because it's almost given me this like foresight into what we're coming into, because we've looked at the client holistically now, both from a design perspective to a business to a technical perspective, and really showing the growth we're having at Synthesis.
So how true, Aleshan, maybe you can answer this, is how true to that design, the design do you have to be the whole way through? Because design happens, and obviously it's all part of that, but now the teams are building, they're developing. Do they keep going back to that? Because I'd imagine sometimes they can go on their own tangent a bit.
So exactly that. Sometimes we get these really beautiful designs from the design team, and then we're sort of limited with some of the aspects of the tech that we have at our disposal. So the guys constantly interact with the design teams, as well as what we're actually capable of doing within the technology that's chosen, and we make small adjustments here and there. We do try and get as close to the actual design as possible,
right.
But there would be small tweaks here and there with regards to styling changes, things like that. Ideally, in this entire process, we constantly communicating with the client as well as design, and we're coming up with a sort of compromise among everybody as to what's the most optimal deliverable point we come up with at the end.
I'd imagine, Dan, that some customers want to be involved in every aspect of a decision, and some want to say, well, you know what I want you to build, go ahead and build it and let me know when it's done. How do you manage that communication with the customer?
So it very much depends on the customer, right? It's actually, we found certain customers, we need to maybe separate them slightly and use buffers from their organization. So like maybe a CTO is too close, we can't, having them so close to the details is not beneficial. Rather, we're coming to them once we've like built foundational pieces to show those off. So those conversations really depend on the project. If clients are trying to say, just do it and get it done, it's not our optimal situation for us. We will then try and pull you in more, try and see who we can make stakeholders on your side that can have more interest for us.
Because I imagine it saves a lot of aggravation later.
Yeah.
If the
100%.
customer's involved the whole way through.
100%. Constant communication is key in these projects. The thing is, with the requirements being quite complicated in some of our clients, where it's like multi-year engagements, without that constant interaction with customers, you can imagine the direction we go in can be quite different to what they're expecting. So if clients want to distance themselves, we generally pull them in. We generally ask them for a project manager or some sort of stakeholder on their side that's constantly in our stand-up sessions, things like that. Sort of have a look at what's happening, keep them informed, and make sure that everything's on the right track and as to, their requirement. Often what happens in these sessions as well is they see something happening that they really like. They continue with that, or they see something that, this was our requirement initially, but can you do this rather and change it a little bit? And then it allows us to be agile and pivot a lot earlier than deliver a completed solution at the end and then have to rework quite a bit of it later.
Yeah, interesting. I was going to ask you that about deployment. When do we deploy? Obviously each case is different, and I get it. But is it preferable to deploy an imperfect or incomplete product earlier, or wait for something that is more robust and ready later? Is there a philosophy around this?
So maybe I'd like to break that down into when you're during the build phase and when you've, like, let's say your minimum viable product's gone live.
Okay.
So during that build phase, we want to do it often and quick. And those stakeholders that Aleshan are talking about, this is their importance, because they need to be there and they need to be seeing what they're getting as soon as possible, right? So that we can pivot and discuss. That pivoting and discussing also builds that relationship of, we know you may want this, but we're looking maybe a little bit a step ahead of you guys. So just trust us on this process. We'll sidestep that feature for now and maybe bring it in later. Once you get into your post deployment or your minimum viable product, it's now live in the wild and people are using it.
Okay.
It changes the aspects there. We're now going to sort of shift to there's part of the team doing management of the live product. The testing stuff will still happen fast and quick for new features, but they won't go out into the wild until they are a bit more solidly tested. So you have a lot more flexibility before that point. There's a little bit less once you go afterwards.
But because then it's in the public domain.
Yeah, then it's public domain. Right. So you can't now you've now created something, there's an impression of it. You can't just go and change it at will now. You have that framework that you've now defined to work within.
The priorities within our team also change when something does reach that production go live stage, because what happens before it goes live is the team is fully focused on feature delivery and creating new features for this application and for our stakeholders to review and so on. But as soon as something is live, remember, clients are using that and they expect a certain amount of functionality out of that. But within our process, there could have been bugs that weren't picked up in the testing process or the quality assurance phase, which is now happening in production. So we sort of need to prioritize our team. This is happening in production. You need to address these bugs versus delivering a new feature that's not visible to anyone yet. So the focus of the team changes in these different phases as well. We still aim to get features out, but we need to maintain and make sure whatever we put into production is stable and robust for the client to actually utilize fully as well.
And do we give them some sense of understanding about, that there will be bugs and it will be imperfect, because I'd imagine if they haven't bought into that and they're not experienced in this, well, they expect a product that's 100% and it works. You don't expect, to buy something that is still being developed.
It is often a difficult conversation.
I would imagine.
even if we do that expectation management, it's, I don't want to put it in a bad light, but imagine if you bought a new fancy car and suddenly the back wheel was the wrong size or something like that, right? And we're explaining like we're getting there. It's the reason, the adaptability that we offer with agile projects comes with the fact that you're going to get an iterative solution.
Right.
We're going to change ways. We're going to get there. And it just becomes, I guess, a part of it. Like you can't get let's say as an engineer or as the build upset that the client's not happy now, it becomes conversations that are almost natural to the flow. And you need to just learn to reaffirm that we are on the right path. Let's look where we were, where we are, and we are headed in the right direction. Again, like that's where you're building that trust.
So we keep going back to that, and we've done this in every episode or every segment here, is the relationship and the trust and the communication is absolutely vital to the success of a digital build.
As Dan said, it's that engagement, constant engagement, and it's about delivering value at every step of the way. Clients often want to get value as soon as possible.
Right.
But in software engineering, getting stuff done quickly often encounters some risk on the side as well. And we need to manage that risk with the client. Yes, we're going to deliver value, but it would come with some risk initially where, the bugs would get exposed and so on. So managing that risk as well as giving the client constant value is often a fine sort of balancing act. And the communication with the client is key to manage that balancing act and see what level of risk they're willing to take to get the value that they need. I think
one of the things, I've been at Synthesis now almost 9 years, so I'm part of the furniture there.
Wow, yeah.
I'll say one of the things from the beginning that we did, and I still love that we do this, is that our developers are put in front of the clients from day one. The reason is, obviously your juniors and your grads are not having those tough conversations, but they are witnessing it. And they're witnessing the good, the bad, and the ugly. And that is what develops those communication skills and the importance of yes, you're great engineers and that's why we're hiring you. But this other part is also very important because it allows you to do the cool stuff you want to do.
Yeah, it's actually an incredible thing. The other thing I wanted to ask you about is the difference between actionable metrics and vanity metrics. Who wants to take it?
Yeah, so I can probably take this one. So vanity metrics are basically metrics that people build into a system that don't add substance. It could be, I don't know, the likes on a post,
yes,
or something along that. It doesn't tell you something that you can action on, right? It's just vanity, right? You're getting a thrill out of it. Whereas sort of metrics of substance would be, maybe I can bring this closer to home in terms of data and streaming. So we do a lot of data streaming and we use technologies like Kafka and so on. So a vanity metric on that would possibly be like, there's something called partitions. So maybe the amount of partitions you have on Kafka. It generally means nothing. It doesn't allow you to gather any business insights or pivot in any way. But a metric of value would be how much lag you have on a particular topic. So the amount of lag you have means your systems aren't coping or processing fast enough for you to maintain a real-timeness on your data. And that metric adds value because now you need to sort of scale up your services to process a bit quickly or optimize your process. So that's the difference in that. Vanity metrics is stuff of no substance. You can't get business value or data out of, whereas the other one is you can actually get business insights and actually change your planning around that.
Yeah, and I guess, Dan, that the process never really ends. That sounds terrible because then customers think they're stuck with you forever. It's not really the case, but there's always things evolving, developing, and ways to enhance this.
Oh, of course.
We don't live in a static age.
No, and we know how fast tech runs. It's actually, for me, one of the fun points of the projects is when you're coming to, especially I'd say phase 1 to phase 2, let's call it. So phase 1's your MVP. When you're approaching that, you now need to go back, reanalyze, what have we done already? We do a storyboarding process. So essentially imagine a big board with stickies, and we have orange stickies, which is work to do in green. And we look at all the green ones and we look at the orange ones, this is now stuff we can start going, and we now start planning their future with them. And we're iterating and we're talking about what comes next so that we're not ever just maintaining the application. From Synthesis, we're always trying to push that thought leadership, always trying to go, let's do this, let's go again and have a look at the dream. How close are we getting to it? Are we at that, are we getting to the stars yet? And how many phases? And let's keep going. And I think that's one of the things that our customers buy into from us, and that we are so passionate about that part.
And what I love about that is it circles all the way back to the design. It circles back to understanding the customer's business, understanding our customer's customers,
Yeah.
and making sure that what we deliver enhances their customer's experience, their own business, so that they can scale, build, run more efficiently.
Yeah.
So really, really
So
incredible.
there's something that we do quite often in synthesis, and it's called the quadrants of knowledge. I'm not too sure if you heard that before, but it's you know what you know what you don't know what you know, and then you don't know what you don't know. And at the start of every engagement, we don't know what we don't know about our clients. We really don't. We're going into this engagement. I mean, often it's in different industries, finance, logistics, and we're learning.
Agriculture.
We're learning every step of the way with our clients. The aim of every one of these phases that we spoke about today is to move stuff from the different quadrants into the know what we know. And that's how we deliver optimal value for our clients, is even the clients don't know what they don't know. And often, sometimes they know what they don't know, and we help them to bring it all into the know what we know and get our projects done on time and within budget and stuff like that.
Absolutely incredible. That is where we leave it. That was 3 episodes. And again, I'd love your feedback. I'd love your questions, your thoughts, your suggestions, as we have, over the last couple of episodes, looked at Synthesis Digital and how we take customers through the process. It's not just really about us. It's really about showcasing how this journey works, and maybe providing some insight into what you can expect. I'm Howard Feldman. This is Synthesis TV.